Hello, my name is Tyler Macklem, and this is my co-host Val Christ.
How you
And
doing?
we are pleased to have with us a special guest, Jordan with Syzygy Forge. Did I get that right? Syzygy Forge.
That's right.
He is the CEO, co-owner of the company, and he's got some exciting news that kind of made waves in the collectible community the other week, and he's joined us on the show to talk about what that means for us collectors and kind of hint and tell us a bit about what we can expect from coming down the pipeline. So, Jordan, if you could just maybe introduce yourself and just kind of give us a bit of a background on your company, what you guys do, and kind of how you got there, if you
Sure,
don't.
sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me first off. And yeah, just reiterate, I'm Jordan Costner and I'm the founder and co-owner and creative director of Syzygy Forge. And that name always kind of gets some people hung up. So Syzygy is the correct pronunciation.
Right.
And of course, I had to be weird and pick a name that nobody could pronounce. So either that's going to help us or hurt us in the long run. But yeah. So I jumped into the licensing business in 2019. I, I started in some collectibles with some video games, a video game company and did that for a while, and then just discovered that I could uh, branch out and do what I was really passionate about. And my background is the arts, so coming from the arts and just applying that in the real world is always a bit of a challenge, but always fun at the same time. And so since then, we I created Syzygy and partnered with my amazing business partners, Sean and Nick, who have been a real cornerstone in bringing my vision to life. And obviously, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and getting the chance to work with Warner Brothers and bringing that vision to life has certainly been a dream come true. And giving collectors, fellow collectors, a chance at a different area of collectibles for their shelf is something that I'm really passionate about doing. So.
Very
So,
cool.
no, go ahead, Val.
I was going to say, so what you touched on at the end there, I'm always very interested about the big picture, the big business side of these particular endeavors, like yours, and how, like, what are some of the challenges that you faced in like approaching something as big as Warner Brothers? I mean, they've probably got a million people knocking on their door every day with all kinds of ideas that they probably think they're amazing. And it's like, how do you even get in a foot in the door, someone to pay attention to you? And like, what kind of proof of concepts do you have to give these guys to make them believe that, yeah, we've got something here. We'll license this massive IP to you and your idea, and that they'll take a chance. What is that process like?
Yeah, good question, Valchrist. It's always a bit of a challenge when you approach a big corporation like Warner Brothers. Um, Obviously, I have a passion for not just the films but the books as well. Always the source material is something I constantly go back to and refer back to you. But obviously, the films were inspiration for the alcohol part of the business, and Syzygy is a multifaceted business. One part is collectible spirits, and the other part we'll touch on here in a bit is collectible figures and different like hardline collectibles like that. Um, but to answer your question, yeah, going directly to Warner Brothers, that's always one of those um, you know difficult areas of you got to say the right thing, and present yourself as someone who knows what they're doing. And
Mhm.
to be honest with you, I don't think anybody in the world really is 100%, proficient at their task. We're all human beings, and I think that's one way of answering your question is, people come up to me and say, how did you do that? And it's going it's by doing and like picking up the phone, sending an email, and just asking. I think that's the simplest way to answer is just to ask. And you're not going to get anywhere unless you ask. But obviously, I did have a portfolio that I presented to them. Coming from my background in the arts, I showed them several projects that I had done in the past. A lot of those are, under NDA, but I've been uh, I've been given the chance to work with Universal Studios for the recent, I think, was it the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park? I think I got that right. But we were able to produce some props for Universal Studios Orlando and for the Jurassic Park anniversary, and that was super fun. And I'm a super detailed guy, so I love getting things just right. And in this case, we were given a scan of the original prop of the night vision goggles from the first film. I don't know if you remember that scene where
Oh
Tim,
yeah.
yeah, puts on the goggles and sees the goat leg and all that fun stuff. But we were given a 3D scan of that model, and we were able to reproduce that for the theme park, and it had to be just right. And um, uh, I had to get like the decals just like to the exact like millimeter placement on the goggles just to be completely right. And so I think it's a toss up. If you put yourself in Warner Brothers shoes and you get a guy like me who's super detailed and who's super is interested in the subject that he's presenting, I think it could go either way. I think you could look at him and be like, "Oh, this guy's crazy," or this guy, this guy could produce something, pretty new and cool." And I think, licensed collectible spirits, that's something that a lot of people kind of go, I'm not sure about that, but once they look at it and be like, oh, I gotta buy two bottles, one to drink and one to put on my shelf, just to look at. So yeah.
And speaking of the alcohol portion of the company, you guys just had a newer release, just I think just as the filming of this episode the day before. Do you mind just kind of introducing that, explaining that? Because it looks very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we do a screen share maybe, or let me,
Yeah, sure. Let me set that up here. And
do you want to pull it up on your side, or I can get to it as well? Um,
So while Tyler's doing that, before we just move off the licensing thing, I just wanted to ask, just out of curiosity, I'm sure you've heard the big news that Netflix is about to acquire Warner Brothers. Does that affect you in any way, or is your contract pretty much insulated from that for now?
I yeah, unfortunately I can't talk about my contract in any detail. But I've been seeing different perspectives on social media about the acquisition. I'm seeing a lot of people in favor of it, and I'm also seeing about the equal amount of people just really worried about what that can do to the movie going experience in general.
Yeah,
Um, of course, going to the theaters to me, is, I remember watching The Fellowship of the Ring for the first time, and I think it was 11 or 12 when that came out in that December. And I was blown away, obviously, and it really made this lasting impact. And the only reason, one of the main reasons I'm sitting here talking with you today. And so, my perspective, my opinion on it is, I hope it doesn't change going to, the whole theater experience is something that I have a lot of reverence to, and hoping that it doesn't change. But of course, with technology, we all need to be open to uh, open to change, because change is a constant force in our lives. So yeah.
yeah. I agree with you on both things you said.
The first one you guys have come out with was the Green Dragon weeded whiskey, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So this was at the forefront of every initial concept. And I I had to explain to people, like, I had a lot of questions of how are you going to bring the world of the Middle Earth films into a collectible spirit. And I my first reaction was, getting an image of Merry and Pippin, dancing on a table at the Green Dragon. Obviously, um, people have a mixture of feelings towards alcohol, and we're always big promoters of drinking responsibly. And but bringing out the Green Dragon in from Hobbiton was always at the forefront of our minds, and bringing this concept to life. And visually, I wanted to create a bottle that could potentially sit on the shelf, in the back of a scene being filmed at Hobbiton. I wanted it to very much look a part of that world. And um I really wanted it to look like something that you could visit, Hobbiton, and take that home with you. And um, obviously, we had to put some real world information on it, like a barcode and things on the back. And actually, I have, I don't know if you can make that out.
Oh yeah.
So, and here's the back of the label there. And this is all done on hand applied linen, specialty linen paper. And we got the logos like on a raised format, and
Hmm.
a hand dipped wax top. This was super special, and something that I was pretty adamant about adding. It just gives it, another added layer of authenticity. There's actually a hand stamped wax dragon. I don't know. Yeah, you can make
I
that
think you might
out.
have to turn off screen sharing, Tyler, so the viewers can
Yeah.
see the. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So Um, but yeah, I'm a big fan of this. And we had to make this product appeal to two different types of collectors, whiskey collectors as well as Lord of the Rings collectors. So that's always an added um, stress when it comes to making these.
Yeah, because you got two big groups, but it's that what do you call that? The Venn diagram where the two circles
Yeah.
intersect. It's always a
Right,
much smaller
right, exactly.
slice. So, but when you do
Yeah, I
find
think
them, they're the best kind of customers.
Yeah, yeah,
regarding the bottle, I think I you touched on a lot of the points that I had actually just thought of just looking at it. It looks like it belongs in the Green Dragon. It looks like it could be a prop made for the films. And then, but obviously you had to make some modern packaging concessions, right? And so,
correct, correct.
but it still feels very much correct. Like it looks correct. I love the look of it. It looks like
Yeah,
something you could go buy from the Green Dragon Inn when you go visit the Hobbiton set, and
Awesome.
maybe that'll be a reality. And so I love how it looks. I think it looks great. I'm sure it tastes great too.
Yeah, too bad I can't you know, beam you some samples
Yeah,
to
right.
taste. But
yeah. During our conversations over email, which I could recall now, but you had mentioned something about you know markets beyond the United States. So how does one get something like that up in Canada, for example? Like what kind of challenges are you dealing with at the moment? I know there's a lot of trade issues between the two of us at the moment.
yeah.
How is that kind of how is your expanding market going, so to speak?
So it's funny how it's funny and terrible at the same time how politics have just, interfered with the creative process.
Mm.
But also at the same time, our license limits us to certain territories, and we recently expanded into the Australia and New Zealand market. And we're doing some pretty um, this is an exclusive. I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but we're doing some uh, pretty cool projects based in New Zealand for the 25th anniversary. So it makes sense for us to partner with a distillery in those territories instead of shipping or trying to ship the product during this time of uh, political uncertainty.
Certainty. Yeah, for sure. Because there's a lot of whiskey lovers up in Canada. So,
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. It, we'll work out something, Val, Chris. Well, if you
all
get
right,
down to the state,
I'll
we'll
hold
get
you
you.
to that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, unfortunately, Canada, um, we're not currently able to ship there. So
And so your newest announcement is the Shadow and Flame single straight malt.
yeah, so yeah, I we have been working on this for about a year now, and we really wanted to knock this out of the park. And there's a lot of details that you can't really make out here. And unfortunately, my physical sample is at the distillery, or I would kind of show it off on video. But this is another one of those projects that had some government interference, and we had to classify it as a straight American single malt whiskey, and it's obviously kind of weird to have American above Gandalf's head, and but that was not my first choice. But alcohol is heavily regulated here, and we put a much higher standard a much higher quality liquid in this bottle. So it had to be classified as this. So we had to legally add that to the bottle. But hopefully fans won't beat me up too bad
Yeah.
about that phrasing. But
Hopefully the
what
Brits don't lose their, they don't go too crazy about it.
yeah, yeah. Forgive me now. I have a lot of friends in Great Britain, so I'll explain it to them over chat. But yeah, so what you're looking at here is if I can kind of walk through that design is Gandalf and the verbiage there. That's actually going to be it's being screen printed on a bottle as we speak, and it's going to have a transparent front. So all of the verbiage, Gandalf, and the bottom verbiage, it will be screen printed on the front of the bottle, and then you look through the liquid at the Belrog on the back. And behind that, you'll see the doors. If you turn around the bottle on the back side, we don't have it listed on the site right now. But if you turn it around, you'll see the doors of Durin and the motif of it's like these um, dwarven emblems around. Those were actually present in Balin's tomb. So
Okay.
we took that motif and we surrounded the back label with that. So, but yeah, we're really excited about this. I we went back and forth with a few different ideas. We explored like a jalapeno whiskey. Um, I we tried to get something that um, you could taste like the heat of the Balrog to mimic that battle and to kind of get a sweet aftertaste that was representative of Gandalf, but we just couldn't get it quite right, and we expanded our production, and we went with a much more higher quality spirit for this bottle for the whiskey fans out there.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks very cool. I love the design and I think the from what you're telling me, the picture just doesn't quite do it justice how you'll be able to see the Balrog through the bottle and it sounds very cool. And I quite like you kind of mentioned earlier alcohol and Middle Earth and but there is a place for alcohol in Middle Earth, and especially those who have read the books, like they Bilbo mentions the old vineyard and offers Gandalf red wine and it comes in pints and alcohol is featured quite it has its moments throughout the trilogy and I think it's very cool that someone has seen the opportunity in that and can bring and decided to bring to Lord of the Rings fans and Tolkien fans um
Yeah,
whiskey and liquor that feels like it's from the trilogy, I think it'd be very cool if you could have if someone could go buy a bottle of the old vineyard, you know, and
yeah.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, like, because I've obviously seeing a pattern here with two whiskeys. Is that the only type of spirits that you are currently licensed for, or can you expand into rum or vodka or what have you?
Yeah, we can do any of the the harder stuff. We explored different ideas and um yeah, so yeah, we can jump into to vodka. We like I mentioned, we're working on several different products for the 25th anniversary of the film. So we'll explore new territory next year for sure with those different types of spirits.
Well,
that's exciting. And so the other aspect to Syzygy is the your new line of collectibles, which is
Yeah.
coming soon. So can you kind of just talk to us about how that kind of happened, how your partnership with um certain artists came about and and just kind of talk what can we expect from Syzygy and going forward here?
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. And obviously, I have a lot to say, but only a little bit that I'm allowed to say. And it's always been a dream of mine to put into fruition, a vision of Middle Earth that has not been told before, or has been displayed before in a collectible format. And obviously, the collector's standard here is Weta Workshop, and those are guys that um, guys and girls that we adore, and a group of artists that obviously have been very influential in what we do. And we were actually blessed to be able to travel down back in March of this year and meet the Weta Workshop team um, and yeah, Sir Richard Taylor is an inspiration behind this for sure. Um, but we're not trying to imitate what a workshop does at all. We want to offer something that's not been done before. But we certainly want to surround ourselves with people who um, know this world and who love this world and who has an equal, attention to detail when it comes to these pieces. So obviously, we immediately went straight to John Howe, and John Howe has been, massive inspiration. I think growing up, um, and maybe you guys can relate to this, but getting the extended DVDs and watching those behind the scenes features, to me, those behind the scenes uh, uh, clips were um, equally as fascinating, as the films themselves. And just being able to create a world visually from Tolkien's text not only a privilege, but just an incredible journey in itself to complete. So, reaching out to John Howe, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but uh, I'll just talk from my experience. We were so nervous reaching out to him. Like, growing up, I watched him and Richard Taylor and Daniel Falconer and um, all the other Titans at Weta, and since then, we've been blessed. We had lunch with Daniel. If he's watching, hi Dan. But we grabbed the chance to eat lunch with him when we were in Wellington, and just amazing people and amazing individuals. And so we reached out to John, pitched him our vision, and obviously John is so influential to the world. A good chunk of the films visually, came from his brain, and um, so being able to partner with him and to bring his paintings from the literary works into a three-dimensional form that fans can put on their shelves is a special privilege. You know,
Yeah, definitely. Like you touched on and on seeing some of those names on the behind the scenes DVD, and I have a very similar experience to that, where they almost to me are they're just as much of the cast as say Elijah or a Vigo or because I've seen those behind the scenes so often that um and so I think that's very cool that you guys have that partnership and like you said, so much of the world came from his mind and and so to be able to bring that to a collectible where somewhere like myself or Valkyris can now put that in our collection, I think is very cool.
Mhm.
And so for those who aren't familiar, the collectible line that is the literary works, not the movie, just
Or
to clarify that for
yeah, and it may get a little bit confusing on our timelines and on Facebook and Instagram. You're seeing stuff from the films and then stuff from without the film logo and without the film appearance. But yeah, the collectible division of Syzygy, we have a license to the literary works of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So anything within those texts we can bring about into a collectible figure, statue. We're working on weapons and armor as well as wall plaques, in addition to all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's worth to mention again that you guys have found a way to basically thread the needle here and coming up with concept line of collectibles, like you said, that aren't just copying what Weta's already done. And so many other companies that have since jumped into the pool, like back in the old days, you basically only had Weta and Sideshow collectibles kind of doing that. And since then, with varying degrees of success, I would say, and some that have promised basically the moon and the sun and then don't deliver on what they've promised. Let's just say that there's a lot of stuff out there, and for someone like myself that's been collecting since practically once Return of the King was out of theaters, when United Cutlery started putting out their first blades, 2003, 2004. um, if you keep at it that whole time, you start to amass quite a bit of stuff, and we're always complaining about space. And like even Tyler, who himself is a fairly recent addition to the world of collecting. Like you can see just from his wall, like he went at it pretty hard for a few years, and he's got a lot of stuff, probably as much as I do by now. So to be able to still find a way to get into our pockets, so to speak, with your stuff. I think that's really cool, and it just shows how incredibly vast this world is. That there's still things out there that you can come up with that he and I are still going to go, yeah, we want that because nobody's done it, or we've wanted that particular object, let's call it, for so long in our collections. And here finally is an opportunity to acquire it, and in a way that it's this is an officially licensed product. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful custom stuff out there, but those sometimes are you know very difficult to track down, especially if like the person has moved on from making that and it's very limited, and you're not going to be able to get that unless somebody happens to sell there. So
Yeah.
I know you can't go into any more specific detail about what these things are, but I'm really excited to find out how you did this and what you've discovered that's left for us to still want to buy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll kind of respond to both um, of the recent comments you and Tyler both made. But yeah, it's been interesting to work with these individuals who were synonymous with, you say John Howe, and to me that's synonymous with, Ian McKellen, Gandalf, and getting on uh, conference calls with him, and I remember being so nervous. The I'm like, this is John Howe, and all the nerves really quickly settled about after 5 minutes of communicating with John, because what I came to realize is and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he's a real life wizard. He's a real life Maya, and he's just an incredibly talented individual who has just soaked up Tolkien's mythology for so long. And to respond to your comment, Valchrist, is there's so much material here, so much in fact that the films did not cover everything. There's so many storylines and characters who were never featured in the films that we now get a chance to go back to the original text and um, create, conceptualize, and design. And with me during the conceptualization process, I'm always going back with the artists that we have here on the Syzygy team. I always preach, well, what did Tolkien say? And, if a question arises of a character's design or a character's intention, or, a building or a structure, a tower, a citadel, what did the text say? And we always go back to Tolkien's intention and Tolkien's vision of Middle Earth. And we never want to create something that betrays his artistic vision for Middle Earth. Um, but we have quite a lot of areas that we can get into and visually demonstrate some incredible places and characters.
It's awesome.
I think it's really cool that after decades we will finally get to see what Han Bully Han looks like, you know. I think some people are maybe excited about Tom Bombadil, but Han Bully Han, that's an often forgotten character, and we have a chance to see that. Um, a lot of the lineup that you describe, it reminds me of and Val would probably could touch on this better, but the old Sideshow Weta line where they weren't afraid, they did some really random kind of things, like the wall plaques and the weapon plaques and just the various stuff. And we've seen that kind of disappear, right, as we've gotten farther out from the films. And so I think that's very cool that that kind of stuff is coming back and making a comeback. And there's I can think of some very cool John Howe paintings, which would make for very cool plaques, and 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 so when can we kind of expect to see some of these collectibles getting up for pre-order? Is there anything you can touch on that, or is that
Yeah.
still quite a ways out there?
Um, No, I think we can expect to see something at the beginning of the year. These collectibles that we'll be listing first, these are collectibles that will be entirely made here in the United States. Just again, with the current political situation, um, we have to be really creative, not only with the products, but also the manufacturing as well. So some of the initial products that we hope to um, uh, get out very quickly, and we're probably looking at the end of January, February. Uh, we're looking at getting some certain wall plaques available to the fans. So I'm trying. I'm going back through the 200 tabs open in my brain at the moment and trying to be vague but specific at the same time. So I hope that answers your question adequately. Um,
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah. I was curious, what are your thoughts on the possibility of any kind of collector participation or input with your line of collectibles in the future? Definitely not at the start. I'm sure you guys you've been working on this for a while, I can tell. And just amongst your brain trust, you probably got a ton of ideas you want to see bring to fruition. But like just to give again, go back to Weta as an example, something that they've did before on and off, and more recently they've become to dip their started to dip their toes into that a bit more, and like giving us four options of ideas for a statue that they're going to release, and then they let us vote on them, and then the winner will become the one that they produce, and then they let us pick the pose. Um, and in addition to that, having sort of an open forum, a way that we can, like right now, obviously you're a member on the Flame, on the Shadow. I want to call it the Shadow and Flame, but that was the old name, the Flame of Uden forum. So it's great that we can interact with you there. But you plan to have some kind of more official way to interact with you guys, and maybe allow us to give you um, sound a bit pretentious to say we can give you suggestions, but just like to let us communicate what our ideas, what we would like to see, and how much you are gonna uh, like glom onto that input, and make stuff from that.
yeah, yeah, 100%. If we don't have the input of fans, I mean, a lot of this stuff will really be going in blindly to it, and um, uh, I I'm also, as a collector myself, I also want to create pieces that I want in my collection. Um, so there's always that point, but yeah, 100%. We like you mentioned, we joined Flame of Udon to kind of curate that collector response and to see what um, shelf space people are reserving and what type of uh, props that we can produce under our license that we can get on. It's gonna be hard with the wall behind you, Valkris, but we'll definitely get some pieces up there to Canada. And that's another thing. We're much more open with the line of collectibles than what we are with the collectible spirits. So, um, fan engagement is really crucial to us to make sure we get that shelf real estate. So it's always about juggling those numbers and what scales should we produce, and obviously, the price range with producing in the States is always going to be more expensive. But we want to offer products that people look at and instantly relate to, and also know that it's not going to be mass produced in the typical sense of overseas manufacturing. It's going to be made with intent and under my watchful eye. If I get stressed about a paint job at 3 a.m. in the morning, I want to be able to get up and go to the studio and check on the paint jobs and make sure that what the fans are ordering um, is quality. So.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Is there and and I hope you can answer this, but if you can't, then I fully understand. Are there characters or potential props that you're very like that you have a favorite out of, or that you're out of out of them you're really looking forward to seeing become collectibles? Like I mentioned, Hanbury Han and but for yourself, do you have Are there particular characters or props that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I guess I guess I can kind of answer that. I can speak from the films. Um, my my ultimate favorite weapon is Glamdring, and I was super excited to add Glamdring to the Shadow and Flame bottle, and that design was created by Ben Wooten, who used to work for Weta back in the day, and it's just my all-time favorite weapon from the Lord of the Rings, and I'm really happy to have one of Peter Lyon's originals back there in the case behind me. That's Master Swordsmith Glamdring edition number 1 and
Wow.
Scabbard back there. Um, so yeah, ever since I was 12, everybody else my age was talking about Corvettes and different things like that. I was talking about Glamdring, forged by Peter Lyon in New Zealand, and nobody in my class knew what I was talking about. But anyway, and there it is, and I'm glad I have it. And so I'm very cautious about saying, what I want to produce because everyone has their own version of, for instance, Tom Bombadil. Everybody has their own version of Tom Bombadil in their head. Um, People who've read the books, they they have this version of him and Goldberry in their cottage, and I'm very cautious about saying how I want to portray these characters, but again, I want to honor Tolkien and I want to honor his legend and produce something accurate to the text, but also at the same time that people want to display very proudly in their collection.
That's great to hear. That's also very cool that that is the Master Swordsmith collection piece.
Yeah. Now we know
Because
where the number one went. Color me envious.
Yeah, it's my Grail piece
yeah,
alongside another Grail.
I
But
see that. I had saw that.
Yeah.
I recognized it. Um,
uh
that's
yeah.
very cool because I know like when John Howe was coming up with concept art for Narsil, he actually came up with like a little rounded area on the blade where the thinking was that the heat from Sauron's hand was so great that it melted part of the blade of Narsil, and so those kind of ideas that didn't make it into the film, there's the potential for something like that to make it into some kind of form of collectible potentially, which I think is pretty cool.
Right, right. Yeah, I can't say what it is, but there's a certain massive project just right over here in my studio that Tolkien leaves out some detail. And we immediately are like, during the design process, is like, what are those details? Like we don't have these in the text. We have what he basically conceptualized with these sentences, this paragraph, but where's the rest of it? So as a designer, it's always challenging, like how can we fill in the gap of what Tolkien leaves to our imagination? And he does that more often than you would think. And to those who have read the books, he obviously fills in a lot of detail. Sometimes he starts describing pretty much every blade of grass at a certain situation, and then other times he's ambiguous during the scene. So um, that's a challenge, Tyler, that we embrace, and at the same time we're terrified of.
Right.
You know. So, do you have the rights to The Hobbit as well? And it being a much shorter novel, obviously, what would your ratio split would in collectibles would be between the two works?
Yeah, yeah. So we do in the collectible format, but in both collectible spirits and collectible figures, in under both of those licenses, we do have the rights to produce uh, products from The Hobbit. So there are obviously very treasured moments in The Hobbit, and um, I I am I I really want to try to be consistent. So if we produce a let's just say this for example, if we produce a bag end piece from The Hobbit, we want it consistent, and we want to utilize that same design through the course of whatever we do. So if we do something again from the Lord of the Rings, I appreciate consistency as much
Mhm.
as being accurate in a design as well, in addition to accuracy. So so yeah, to answer your question, there's several places and characters from The Hobbit that we definitely have intentions on producing some uh, collectibles for. So yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of fans will be happy to hear that because yeah, it's a big part of that world. And I mean, for myself, that was my introduction into the world of Tolkien. So it's good to know that it won't be forgotten. And yeah, there are some things that are unique to that book, and then quite a few others that obviously carry through and that we would expect to see later on down the road. So
yeah. I'm right there with you. The Hobbit has a very special place in my heart as well, and uh, even the smallest details in The Hobbit, we want to bring out in some collectible form. So even something as simple as a barrel. Um, Maybe that's a hint I'm not supposed to be talking about, but keep that in mind for the future.
got it.
Very exciting. Well, thank you, Jordan, for joining us today and kind of giving us the lowdown and on what we can kind of expect and maybe questions that longtime and new collectors might have had and we're curious about it. It's very exciting to kind of see what's on the horizon, and it's always kind of cool to see the new kid on the block, and see what they're bringing and I think it sounds like you've found a very neat kind of niche part of where you can provide to collectors stuff from that hasn't been covered in the collectible form officially, and so I think that's very cool to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. I'm very intrigued and I hope it really pans out.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
thank you guys very much for the invite, and hopefully in 2026 I can come right back here to my desk and hold up some collectibles that we've been working on, and we can go more in detail on and forget about the vague um, walkarounds of that. So yeah, Syzygy appreciates fans like the both of you, and obviously you're part of the community that we are a part of, not just a part of, but also that we want to create amazing products for. So really appreciate the energy that you guys bring to the community, and you guys covering in your past videos, such as Kit Ray, loved that video, the original prompt. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. And we're
Yeah.
collectors. We're used to the very vague hints, so don't.
Yeah, we're pros at that. But yeah, thank you. We're very much looking forward to seeing what you got in store for us and all other lovers of Middle Earth in the coming year and following. And yeah, really excited what you got. And thanks for allowing us this opportunity to chip away at a little bit of your resolve to not tell us the details. But we know they're coming, and that's the exciting part.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Next time you step across the border, we'll try to arrange something for
It'd be a while, but
collectible spirits. Yeah.
one of these days, yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and good night.